My name is Dave Hollenbach, the host of From Embers to Excellence, a podcast that explores the many facets of leadership from the perspectives of some amazing people. We discuss the triumphs and failures that have shaped our lives and our leadership philosophies. I've found that it isn't whether we fail that defines us, but when we do fail, how we respond. Leaders dust off the ashes and use their failures as fuel to work harder and as lessons to come back wiser and stronger, more resilient, more determined, and more committed to excellence. Today I'm speaking with Lisann Valentin. She is an actor, author, and amplifier. From Wall Street to red carpets, Lisann is an empowered empath and a fifth-generation shaman. She has been doing this in the corporate world as well as the entertainment industry. With mindfulness at the forefront, she amplifies her clients' gifts with shamanic life coaching for the world's empaths, creatives, leaders, and healers alike. So we're going to dig into that. This is not too different from some of the previous guests on the show, but this is definitely going to be original, and I'm like really excited to dig in and really get a sense of what you're passionate about. So Lisann, thank you very much for agreeing to have this conversation with me and coming on the show.
Thank you for having me, Dave. I'm excited to dig in, as you put it.
Let's start off where it all began. Where were you born and raised, and what was your early life like growing up?
I was born and raised in New York City. And from as early as I can remember, I was going back to Puerto Rico at least 3 times a year. It was really important for my parents for me to have the sort of like patriotism and to really understand the island. Even though it was still part of the United States, it's a Commonwealth, and they wanted me to keep the culture alive. And that was, whether I was in New York or on the island, it was prevalent in my life just because my grandfather was, we didn't use the word shaman, but he was very gifted. And that was just sort of part of my upbringing to understand the plants of the islands, to understand how plants help in healing, and psychic development was also part of it. And I also honestly didn't know that this wasn't like normal and everyone's like Saturday. So I didn't realize it was very different. So spirituality was at the forefront. So like part of my cultural identity was also the spirituality attached to it. And so having a lot of faith, believing in oneself, and in the energy of love, and how that can move mountains was very much a part of just like my day-to-day normal.
And your family roots are Puerto Rico?
Yeah. Yeah. So for what that means for me and for those that are not familiar, so Puerto Rico is an island in the Caribbean. And what that typically means is that we're all a mix of indigenous Taino, African, and the Spanish who colonized the island first before it went over to the United States. And within that mix, there was a lot of European ancestry because Spain was trying to bring a lot more Europeans into the island to make sure they kept the European heritage alive. So there's a lot of French influence, a lot of Irish influence. And my 2 times great grandmother, who was a renowned healer in Puerto Rico, was known as the Irish one. So even though she has indigenous heritage and Spanish heritage, she had it was her dad was Irish. So that was enough for her to be labeled the Irish one, even though she was Puerto Rican. So it's a place and it's a culture, but one's racial identity just depends on where they lean in their own family tree.
The indigenous peoples to the island, is that like a tribe, like an Indian tribe?
Yeah. So the indigenous people are Taino, and they're related to the Arawak Indians of South America, for using the natives. And so a lot of the, like, for example, the word barbecue is from the Taino word barbacoa. It's our word, right? So like there's a lot of influence. It's just that I think historically around the 1600s, and I may be off on my dates, there were apparently no more pure indigenous people. Everyone on the island was already mixed. Now, indigenous, the Taino were not just in Puerto Rico, they were in other parts of the Caribbean. Again, because they were related to the Arawaks. So there's not like, I'm not 100% Taino, you know what I mean? But I
Yeah.
don't, honestly, I don't believe any exist. I think
Yeah.
about 1600s, they were all mixed by then.
Huh.
Yeah, but the culture was still very much alive. So what I found was that the word Boitiu is a Taino word for shaman, which is what best expressed my 2 times great grandmother's gifts. And so she helped people with plant medicine, and her daughter was very intuitive. That was my grandfather's mom. And my grandfather's, oh my God, all his clear senses were running like he was to the max. I can't even tell you. You walk in and he'd tell you about your whole life and before you know his name, like he was just on it. And my mom is intuitive, and we would do something called, known commonly as laying on of the hands, or people call it Reiki, depending on, what their vibe is. And we just did that naturally. That was just part of how I grew up. And so even though for a long time, I led a very linear life in terms of having very traditional goals, like get a career, you get a career, you get married, you have 2.5 children, and then you retire probably in Florida, and then you die. Like that was a trajectory of like what is a good life, and that can be a good life. I was decidedly on that path, trying to lower the volume on the intuitive part of my life for many, many years, not realizing that it was the thing that was helping me thrive in my life and ultimately help me switch gears to do what I loved.
You went to school
Mhm.
in New York City,
Mhm.
and at some point you went into acting. Did you go away to college, or did you study there in New York?
Yeah. So I went to college, and so I decided I was going to be a lawyer. That's what I decided I was going to, because that was like the job. It was either lawyer or doctor, and I picked lawyer. So I went to school, I went to college. I ended up getting a degree. My backup was going to be an elementary school teacher. Like that's not a backup. That's another career entirely. But in my mind, I was like, if law doesn't work out, I'll teach. I went to law school right after college, and then I ended up becoming an attorney. And instead of going straight into law, I started teaching 5th grade. and then I was getting a lot of flack from my family, like, why are you not practicing law? And I was like, all right. So then I got a job at a firm, and I stayed at that firm for many years. The thing is, like, law school was like swimming against the current. It was really challenging for me. Um, so was practicing law, because I'm highly empathic. So all these gifts that I was trying to lower the volume on kept bubbling up, because something in me was saying like, this isn't it. This isn't you. Like, yes, I can logically do this. My brain can handle this. I can pass the test, do the thing, and practice law, but it wasn't fueling my soul. And it would come out in different ways. And the challenging part was that I was in litigation. So I wasn't just like doing contracts or reviewing things. I was in court all the time, confronting like all this dense energy, because it's combative. That's litigation. That's what it is. Your soldier going into your little wars and coming out hoping to be victorious. So the challenge for me was, how do I stop feeling everything at this level? Because I honestly wanted to stop. I didn't know I could do anything more than that. Now I know it's way more useful than just feeling everything. But at that time, I didn't get it. I didn't make the connection that like I was super sensitive, that I was seeing potential outcomes because that was part of my intuition. I could lean into a certain way in argument because I was reading the room. Do you know what I mean? It's like all these things that I wasn't paying attention to. So I stepped into an acting class to find another way to cloak myself, to sort of protect myself. And that's when like the floodgates opened. I listened to that little voice. I was like, just try this. Just try this. And I did it, I thought, for the law. And it was like, no, you're doing it because this is what you're about to do. The minute I stepped into that class, like everything started falling into place. I made a plan, and I stepped out of my legal career right onto a role off Broadway. And from there, I was on film and TV consistently. And I've been doing this for about 11 years. And so throughout that time, I've written books, and I've coached other actors. And now it's sort of led me into a place where I'm still acting, but I'm also intuitively coaching people so they can understand how the part I didn't talk about was how I started understanding that empathy is a gift and not a burden. How empathy is more than being a sponge, it's being an amplifier.
Well, can you talk about that?
Yeah, sure. So if you can feel emotion, that means you can also project emotion, right? And most people kind of get that, right? Like if you're annoyed and if you're sensitive, someone's going to feel that annoyance. Oh, what's up with you? I'm fine. I'm fine. But they're reading your body signals, and maybe you have a face, and obviously you're not fine. Maybe you don't want to talk about it. But let's say there's no logical explanation for someone to feel your annoyance. You're happy, you have the smiley face. Maybe you don't even know you're annoyed. Maybe it's just sitting there. An empath will know. They'll feel it without any logical explanation as to why they feel this feeling. Now, if you are amplified in your gifts, which is what I help people do, you'll be able to, one, discern whether or not an emotion that you're feeling is yours. You might be able to pinpoint the source. You will know that it is not your responsibility to deal with someone else's feelings or emotions unless you're being invited to or you feel called to in that relationship or situation. And you'll also know how to alchemize energy. All that means is allow yourself to release energy that's not yours and step into a place of love. So you're magnifying love out instead of inadvertently absorbing someone's annoyance and then magnifying annoyance out, which is typically what, like, people that don't know what their gifts are, that's what they do. So like, if you've ever seen that airport experiment where one person pretends to be really annoyed, pacing, and then like it's like it starts trickling across the waiting area in the airport, and everyone starts getting pissed off because they're waiting for something. They don't know why they're mad, but now everyone's mad. Energies like that, like it's like, it trickles on until everyone feels it. So now if you are an empath and you're holding someone else's anger and you don't know it, now you're emanating anger everywhere you go. But it wasn't even yours to begin with. So how do we amplify that? Learning how to become an alchemist of emotion. So again, like, know it's yours, know how to transform that energy within you. So like tools, shamanic tools to release it. And when I say shamanic, it sounds super mystical, but for me, it's just like using nature to get grounded, using nature to release energy, using your words like law of attraction style, knowing that the words that you speak become manifest, having integrity with your language. Like, all these little tools help you find a way that's yours so you can amplify your gift and actually feel empowered in being empathic. Feel empowered when you walk into a room, to the point where you can walk into a big box store and immediately know, oh, there's a lot of emotion here. Let me make sure I'm grounded so I'm not absorbing everyone's feelings. I can wait in line and not get stressed out. I can walk into, really sad situation and not feel everyone's feelings. So that's what I mean when I say that I'm an amplifier and that I help people amplify their gifts. It's like, how do you really use it in a day-to-day that serves you, your specific set of tools? And so, and it's shamanic just because I'm using stuff that I inadvertently learned from my heritage in honoring nature and honoring the nature that is us, to keep us in a state of always reverting back to love, always, always, always going back to love.
It's really cool.
I give you a lot, Dave. Like,
yeah, no, I am like, I don't even know how many questions are banging around against each other, trying to be the first one out of my mouth. But you said love multiple times.
Yeah.
And I haven't shared this. I'm pretty sure I haven't shared this on the show because it's kind of, hippie kind of stuff. But I was part of this coaching program where the woman who was coaching us, her mother is a shaman and does the Reiki, and there's a lot of interesting stuff, and quite frankly, I don't know that I would have signed up for it had I known that all of that was part of it.
Yeah.
But once I paid for it and it became like, oh, this is interesting. Let's just roll with it and see where it goes. Well, did a lot of I guess inner work that I really needed to do, quite frankly. But when we would journal, a lot of when I was digging deep, a lot of what I journaled about and what I felt compelled to talk about and share with the people in my life was love. And it doesn't necessarily, I mean, it doesn't mean like romantic love. It's that um I don't know, platonic love, or just
Mhm,
the love that you have for your fellow human beings,
mhm.
and just sharing some positivity, like being able to change the energy in the room just by being pleasant and
Mhm.
nice is incredible. But that's my elementary understanding of what was going on. I was wondering if maybe you could maybe talk a little bit more about what love is to you and how you use that in your work, and how you share that with the people that you coach.
Okay, yeah. Well, first, before we even do that, I'm going to take a deep breath. So you can join me or not, but it's going to be audible. It's going to sound very Darth Vader-y because this is how I breathe. Okay. So I'm going to just take a deep breath in and I'm going to release. I'm going to do that 2 more times. And I'm doing this because this is how I ground. Getting into a space where I'm focusing on my breath. And I like to do it in a set of 3 just because it's making sure that I'm not focusing on how to do it right. I'm just knowing it's going to happen 3 times and I'm going to focus on my lungs expanding, contracting. And now I'm here. I'm fully in the chair. I'm fully in this moment. And that is actually the base out of how I operate, no matter what I'm doing. So when I talk about speaking from a place of love, I'm talking about unconditional love and compassion. I'm talking about looking at a fellow human being and seeing I am you and you are me. And we are that. And when I say we are that, no matter what someone's religious background or spiritual background is, knowing that like if love is at the core, then you can connect to everyone. And sincerely, you can have love and compassion for someone who's caused you pain or distress, someone who's standing before you who has pain or distress that perhaps you don't understand. But if you reset to that place of compassion, which to me is unconditional love, then you can hold space for them. And so what I mean by hold space is I'm actively sitting here present with you and we're connecting. And I don't need to fix your problem. I just need to allow myself to be in such a present moment that you feel seen and heard. In that process, there's an alchemy happening. You feeling seen and heard, that is an expression of love. I don't need to fix you. I don't need to change you. I'm just witnessing your experience. And there's alchemy in that. Even as I say that, I'm getting tingles up my legs. And so, like, when you journal, let's say you're journaling, and I encourage my clients to do this too, write something and then see if love can respond back. And so what I mean is it's like when I was when I was in 3rd grade, I got a journal and I didn't know what to do with it. And my mom said, write to God. And so I did. And that's what I mean, like write to your highest self, write to the highest form of life that you believe in, whatever the belief system, even if it's just you that you believe in, then just write and see if love writes back. And the more you practice, I guarantee you, when you have questions, answers will come. And they'll always come from a place of love if that's the intention you set. When I guide people to start using their words from a place of integrity, it's because we create this reality. If I keep saying I'm having a miserable time somewhere, eventually I'm going to feel like I'm having a miserable time. Just like if I tell people these are words and tools you can use to feel more empathy for someone, that eventually they will feel empathy at some point, is because they're co-creating an existence where they allow themselves to feel. So when we talk, like if I talk about law of attraction stuff and it says like, I am abundant, you can say it like the word milk 20 times and not feel it, and it has no effect. But if you truly believe I am abundant, and you feel that in your bones, you attach that to an energy of really feeling like you have the world at your fingertips, like that energy of that, an emotion, a memory. Now your words are creating a reality. This is how you become an alchemist. And so by being that, resetting to a place of love, and that shifts in energy in the room, it will only shift to those who are receptive to love. So if someone has decided that they do not want that, they will not be affected by it. So you're not like interfering with someone's freedom or sovereignty. It's just by being love, you're emanating an energy out. And those who have like a door open to that are going to slowly relax their shoulders, relax their jaw, and sort of be in a place of like, oh, I can receive love, and things calm. People will calm. And it's only because you've decided that you will be different. You'll be that thing. You'll be that beacon. And it does shift a room. Now, does that mean you have to walk into every room? No, that's not your job. If it doesn't feel good, get the hell out of that room. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and so, and I help my clients discern, have that wisdom to discern, like, what's a situation that you feel that you can use your gifts in and really be of service if it calls to you, or learn when to get the hell out of the room. Right. And so it's sort of like a vague way of saying, like taking these tools. So like, let me get really specific. When I'm breathing like that, maybe that doesn't rock with everybody. Like my cousin, I would breathe like that with him. He's like, you sound like Darth Vader. What are you doing? It's so weird. I'm like, okay, it's so weird. So let's play a game. Let's be like children. So if we're like at the beach, I'm like, let's get grounded in water. Let's put our feet in the ocean and really feel our feet in the sand and feel the water and focus on your own breathing, like in and out of waves. So use your imagination to create a reality. And the ocean's really grounding. So many people love to be near it, but so is a hike. A hike is really grounding. So now your feet are on the earth and you're focusing on the air or the trees. These different elements, or like, let's say you're in a city and you don't have nature around you. You bring nature in, you get a plant, you light a candle, and you're using like the element of fire, right? Candles can be really soothing. They set a tone. And so that's what I mean by like getting into the elements, getting into nature. It's like finding creative ways to bring things that are naturally around us, to bring us into a space of love and making it your own. So that's kind of like the woo mystical side of it that I ask my clients, the people that are drawn to me are totally into it usually already. It's not someone who's super skeptical. But when I show them that like something that seems super woo is kind of practical, like for example, you're stressed out, people go, well, take a shower. Yeah, because shower is going to get you into theta state and you're going to get super grounded in the water. But no one tells us that these natural instincts that we have actually have like a purpose or a meaning to them.
Yeah.
Right. And so these are sort of ways that I help my clients ground and sort of like feel into their feelings more and see how they can be of service, you know?
Yeah, it's actually, there's a couple of things here. So years ago, this is before any of the love coaching stuff that I was just talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this was just me learning to be a better leader and trying to share that with the people that I was leading. Because if I'm getting better at being a leader, I want the people that I'm leading to get better as well.
Yeah.
So when I was promoted, um, the the person that took over when I moved out of that station ended up getting promoted to lieutenant, and he had questions for me and really asked, how was it that you were able to address deficiencies in a way that you weren't mean, you weren't rude, you weren't being a jerk about it. You made everybody feel as though they could be better, and you working with them wasn't punishment. It was showing them that you cared.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, how did you do that? And I was like, well, I genuinely cared about you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's what you have to do to be a good leader, I think, is that you genuinely have to love those people that you're leading,
Mm-hmm.
care genuinely about their success, And I think that you can say that to people all day long, and unless they actually feel it themselves, they'll never, I think they have to experience that themselves in order to follow through and be that kind of a leader, you know?
Yeah, I mean, one, you have to be that so you can emulate that and then allow that to be of service to other people. You know, and I said earlier, like, I am that, I am the love. And so that's why other people can feel it. I've never had a problem caring about other people. In fact, it was such a crutch for me in the law to have so much compassion. It felt like that's not my job. I'm the defense. Like, I should not be giving a crap about what's going on across the table. And yet I did. But I understand that's not everyone's journey. You know, I always go back to when we're little. Our default is compassion and love. That's how we are. We come in and then things happen outside of us where we learn experiences from the people around us who are just doing their best to lower the volume on some things so that way we can be what they think are, let's say, better leaders. But then you unlearn something you naturally have, which is how to lean into compassion for people and to help them feel seen and heard. To be in a space of leadership, you need to feel loved so you can be love. So if I have a client who tells me, I really want people to feel safe, I want to create a center for people to feel safe. The thing I say to them is, if this is one client I'm actually thinking about. First, you have to be that. You need to feel safe in your own gifts so you can be that safe space. If you yourself do not feel safe in your gifts, then how can you be that for someone else? You're standing on a broken foundation, asking everyone to jump on it with you. You cannot. One, we repair what's going on within. Then when you're in that space, then you can say, come on, this is a solid foundation. I can hold your hand. So if you're a leader and you don't care about people, it's really challenging for people to feel cared, to feel cared for.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, again, but it's learnable. You learned how to get this way. You can learn how to step up into I don't want to say better, because it's not about being better. You can step up into a higher way of being that's connected to the part of you that is infinite love. You know, and you did the work. You said you did the work. That's the thing. Leaders have to do the work.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, here it is. This is really serendipitous that you would start, because the coach gave me this journal.
Breathe.
It's I don't know. Are you familiar with Thich Nhat Hanh?
I love Thich Nhat Hanh.
So that's, I don't know if you can read it at the bottom, but
Yeah, beautiful Thich Nhat Hanh meditation journal.
and so a lot of the stuff that I wrote in here really resonates with when I read through it. It's like me learning to love myself and be love. And as I read through it, I'm like, man, this was actually so much more than just a coaching program, you know. It helped me grow quite a bit. And I feel like that's what you do when you're coaching. You said that you work a lot with people in law and in the medical field. And I would imagine you probably coach some executives as well.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that they're already pretty much, they have an understanding of their own spirituality and what you're offering. That's why they connect with you, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
So can you talk a little bit about some of the work that you do with your clients that helps them achieve that higher level that you were just talking about?
Right. So if I'm talking about my clients that are already like the mystical stuff doesn't turn them off, right?
Yeah,
They're
right.
in it. They're like they're ready as woo as it's gonna get, they're into it, right?
Yeah,
So energetically, there are things that I can see. If I'm tapped into someone's energy, you said something resonates with you. So that I immediately start thinking about music, frequency, like someone hitting a singing bowl, like the sound, right? So we're at that vibration. Within that vibration, I can start seeing what's going on with someone because I've connected with them at that level. And I can say, all right, we're going to shift these energies, and that might be through guided meditation. That might be through channeling. That might be through some basic stuff like we talked about, like what's your grounding practice? What's going on now? Like what is the thing that's holding you back now? And letting them do the digging. Because I never want it to feel like, oh, I'm the one that's doing anything. I'm not doing anything. I'm a really cool straw. I'm a conduit, and I can sit here and hold space and let that energy just flow through and we transmute it together. Or I'm receiving information that's coming from a higher place than me, and I'm sharing it with that person. And typically within those sessions, and my legs are shooting up with energy again, during those sessions, they're coming to an understanding. Their gifts are kicking up and they're seeing and their energy is moving, meaning like they might be crying, they might be coughing. There's a lot of physical things that start happening when you start working on, let's say, your chakras or the energy within you. So we can start off at a really practical, rational, reasonable, seemingly reasonable place. And then we super get into the mystical component because I see energy like sometimes I'll see like someone's auric color, their field. Sometimes so like it'll look like gold, orange, blue energy around them. Then in them, I might see denser energy. They look like shadows. And that's where the shamanic stuff comes in. And so then if they're made aware, then we can work on what happens in these energy centers to clear that out. And then typically that's connected to a buried thought, feeling, emotion, memory that they've been holding. Some so deep that they didn't remember it until I see it. Right? Like it's being shown to me to tell them, to remind them. And then we work on practical ways to navigate that space. Because it's not like you take a pill and something changes. It's like we're going to work together energetically. And now you've got some homework to do. They're telling me, meaning like the divine is telling me, take this step. You know, if you do I am affirmations, maybe you should start doing some you are affirmations with your inner child. You know, it's really, this is when it comes super mystical because again, I'm tapping into a very private place with them. And I'm seeing things that maybe they don't remember. And it's like a journey between the two of us because it's not like I know everything. I don't. I'm getting information and they have to help me fill in the pieces to the puzzle. So it'll look like I'm seeing a blue feather. What does that mean to you? And they have a whole story about, oh my God, you know, like that's what that meant. Now there's a reason for it. It's not all nilly-willy. Now we're going to talk about, let's say, for example, making this up, like maybe why you're beating yourself up for the fact that you didn't stop at an opportunity of picking up a blue feather, which relates to every time you stopped yourself from following your intuition to do something for yourself. Like, do you see how like it'll be like something that's seemingly innocuous that really has everything to do with the state of being that they're in right now?
yeah,
And the minute they make a session with me, the challenging thing for me is that the divine has gone to work. I'm already connected. I'm already getting information. It's go, go, go. And then I'm connected to them for days. So it's like they're aware of that. If we're in like a 3-session period, then that whole month, like it's constant contact. They're like, it's like almost like we're doing a dance together and we're always dancing until we've decided the dance is over. And so that's what it looks like. And so I'm getting messages and I'm giving them homework and I'm inviting them to try something new, to feed the part of themselves that's starving. Because if we've neglected ourselves for a certain period of time, now that we're tapping into that space, we're going to be like, this plant needs water. Show me where to water it, when to water it. How do I give it the love that it needs? And so I hope I've given you a clear example of like how that can shift and change depending on what that person needs.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's super mystical. I mean, it's like, it's not like a therapy session. This is all energy.
Yeah. And what really is interesting, the conversations that I've had with other individuals on the show and just in my private life, the first time I ever had Reiki, it blew my mind. But one thing that you said at the beginning of this conversation was the laying on of hands. Now, when I was in high school, I had a major fracture to my leg. I almost lost my leg. I ended up in the hospital with compartment syndrome. They had to do emergency surgery to save my leg, and they weren't even sure that that was going to work. But I was in this delusional state, and I remember being in the hospital and laying in the bed, and at that time, I went to a Southern Baptist church, right? And the pastor and some elders, they came to the hospital and they did this laying on of hands and prayed over me. And I have no idea what they said. I just remember a bunch of people I didn't know touching me and feeling like really kind of weirded out initially, and then feeling safe and knowing that everything was going to be okay. And it wasn't like I felt that God was intervening or anything like that. It was, I want to say it just was this energy that really gave me that awareness that everything was going to be okay. And I still have my leg. I didn't die. And
happy to hear
it. I spoke with another individual about Reiki. Actually, there's been several conversations that I've had. It's really interesting how I've been able to connect with so many people that there are these common threads where it is directly related to a person's ability to lead others, empower others, share their gifts with other people. But that energy that you share with somebody that you're leading can be so powerful. And I never in a million years actually thought I'd be saying any of this. So it's quite interesting because there's experts that I've talked to about neuroscience, neurofeedback. It's connected. It's all, I think, different ways of explaining what we're capable of.
Bingo.
And I just, for those listening, those that are still listening, kudos to you, but having an open mind, and I feel like I try and encourage that, especially sharing what so many different people have to say on leadership and really mindset, mindfulness, being able to ground yourself and connect with other people on a deeper level. I don't know. It's really cool that you and I were able to connect and have this conversation, because maybe not everybody that started listening is still with us, but I know that some that get it are still listening. And I think that this conversation will lend itself to other people tuning in and maybe even connecting with you, the people that want to connect at a deeper level, could really utilize a coach like you to help guide them to this place of understanding and love. So
Thank you, Dave. You know, you were talking about this and I kept thinking about your career as a firefighter because I'm reminded of something. So like I'm seeing you walking into smoke, right? And then I'm seeing you putting out fire, part of a team, going in there, doing what you need to get done, having the logical explanation for what's going on, having your own gut feeling about what's going on, which are all part of how you thrive, let's say, in that role. Me speaking about so I have no idea what firefighters do other than what I just said, and that's probably way off base. But when I think about that, I think about my life in the law, and I think about being thrust into chaos or allowing myself to walk into chaos, to walk into those tiny little civil wars in a way, right? Because it was civil law, I wasn't a criminal, and being that light. And so knowing that each of us, no matter what your role is, you're a leader at some level in your life, and you're thrust into situations because you're uniquely capable of transmuting energy or changing a situation from one to the next. And you walked into this space maybe not even aware that you had this superpower being who you are, whether you're a caretaker or whether you're running the CEO of a major company. There's something in you that called you to step into that role of where you could change one thing to the next. So that might be making someone's life just a little bit better that day. That may be saving someone's life because you were a firefighter. That may be just giving someone a little bit more peace because you were the peace in an otherwise chaotic day. You can show up as a leader just by being who you are as you are and allowing your gifts to shine just a little brighter. And I wanted to thank you for having me on this show because you're doing that every day with each and every guest that you bring here. Whoever has hung on to listen is listening because there's a piece of them that gets this, that understands this and wants to show out in the world with just a little bit more of this.
so many things that you spoke about, like the breathing, grounding yourself. These are tools that are applicable when leading in high stress environments.
Mm.
When your reptilian brain takes over and you get tunnel vision and you're like hyper vigilant on one little detail, to be able to ground yourself and open yourself back up to take in everything that's going on, it takes a level of awareness, self-awareness, to be able to like take that few seconds to breathe and become present again.
Mhm.
And that bringing order to chaos is, I mean, sometimes it doesn't have to be uh, an emergency or somebody's worst day, but sometimes being able to connect with somebody on a deeper level can be so powerful and meaningful. Especially a lot of times, we talk about mental health on this show, and individuals like combat vets and law enforcement, fire department, people that are struggling with PTSD. And maybe you're not the one that's struggling with that, but maybe somebody that is, and being able to hold space and allow that person to unload some of that burden can be the difference between them sticking around a little longer or deciding to permanently uh, leave
Mhm.
their life behind. But so yeah, no, there's so much power in this spirituality. And I've talked to quite a few like high level, like tier one special operations guys that in that world of dealing out death, connecting to that spiritual side and being able to come back to the States and turn things around to where now they're, dealers of hope. And there's a lot of power in just being able to open yourself up to the possibilities that there is something deeper. And I don't know. Anyways.
No, it's not anyways. No, I think it's totally relevant. I mean, I think that those very people you're talking about, they can't be a dealer of hope if they haven't felt the depths of despair.
Yeah.
And the fact is, if you're in combat, at some level you're feeling what happened. There's a piece of you that goes. There's a piece of you at any time that someone's life is in the balance and you're the hand that dealt that. No matter the cause, we're all human beings, and that you carry that with you. And so now you come back to be hope, then you're a walking alchemist.
Yeah.
You're literally changing an experience to turn it into something for someone else's highest good. You don't have to fix people's problems. You don't need to fix anyone. Just allow yourself to be healed enough. That invites other people to step into their own healing. And that is just fucking magical.
Yeah.
To be able to be that strong, to do that, to say, I am that, I'm going to do that. I'm going to be that winged warrior that walks into darkness and tames it with the light, because I am the fucking light with all the F-bombs I've dropped in here. Hell yeah. Yeah, because it gives someone hope. It makes them feel seen and heard. The person that is struggling with PTSD, that's a lifelong journey.
Yeah.
Of undoing all of that, all those emotional triggers that set you off because you're in a constant state of survival with all these expectations on your shoulders. It's a lot. And so when you have someone that's been there, walk that walk and come out the other side and says, I see you, I can hold your hand, that means everything. That is that is such a huge gift, a beautiful calling. So you can call it a shaman, call it a light worker, you can just call it a coach, call it whatever you want. Call it spirituality or just call it humanity, right? Because we are all, in my opinion, our highest selves is that which is connected to the highest form of love, spirit, divine. We are that. Yeah. We're just having this human experience. And the more we can step into the highest part of ourselves, the more we make the human experience better for everybody else.
I feel like you helped me understand a lot more of what I needed to understand, and like, cause man, I tell you what, like I was cleaning stuff out today, and coming across that journal, man, I had a bunch of stuff stacked on it. So that just goes to fit. I haven't been journaling. Jeez. But and here's what's really interesting is that before I found that, because like on this list of things for me to do is clean office. But the very top of my list says build a daily routine, meditate, journal, exercise. Like I know, like it's just, I mean, I freaking wrote about it. Like these are ways to become a better leader, become a better human, and live a better life. And part of that is connecting with people on a deeper level, and I don't always connect I don't know. This is original here. So, uh,
Mhm.
and really cool. And I hope that it comes through in the recording for the people listening that, um, yeah, please, for those listening, reach out to Lisann, check out her website. And for those listening, what's the best way for people to connect with you?
They can head over to my website. It's lgvalentin.com and all the links are there. So just LG Valentin.
Yeah, I'll have that in the show notes. And I also have your Instagram and Facebook. I'll put those links in the show notes as well. So before we go, is there anything that we didn't touch on that you feel compelled to share?
Gosh, I feel like everything I felt compelled to share, I just let it all out. I just was going 0 to 60.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just thankful for the opportunity to share it here with you. Anytime like I'm on a show with someone and it feels like this synergy, then I know it's something else is at play and I'm thankful to be a part of it.
No, really, really cool. But thank you so much, Lisann. And like I said, I'll have the links in the show notes. And for those listening, if they wanted to enlist your services, can you? I know you didn't touch on everything that you offer your clients. Do you
Mhm.
want to share that?
Sure, yeah. So if someone is not sure, but they want a smorgasbord of everything, shamanic coaching is what I offer because then we can dive into the different techniques and areas that I use, which is like this idea of laying on of the hands. You can do this like on a Zoom. It's the same. Um, Also Akashic records, which is a nice way for someone who doesn't want to do energy work, but wants to sort of tap into like the knowledge we all have access to get clarity. That's something else I offer. And more importantly, if someone just wants to learn how to utilize their gifts, I have the Empowered Empath Masterclass coming up this fall. So if they're interested, they can reach out and I'll let them know when the doors open again.
All right, cool.
Yeah,
The
thank you.
empowered empath.
Yeah. Mhm.
Cool shit. All right. All right. Well, thank you so much, Lisann. And I'm sure that we will stay connected. This is really, really cool.
Thank you. Thank you, Dave. We will. I know we will.
Thank you for listening to this episode of From Embers to Excellence. Please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Follow me on your favorite podcast platform and visit hollenbachleadership.com for additional content. My goal is and always will be to add value to as many people as possible. So if I can be of any assistance to you or someone you know, please connect with me via email or on one of my social media accounts, linked on the homepage of my website. Remember, our failures don't define us unless we let them, and the only true measure of a leader is the success of their team.